Hello, Paul. How's it going?
Oh, hi, Jacquelyn. How are you in the great state of Maine, where it's cooler than it is here in Washington?
It is. It is cooler, but we're having a heat wave up here too. Definitely not. You guys have like what, 100-degree weather?
Something like that. It's a little unpleasant.
Yeah, we're at like 83 and we're complaining. So, but I am liking it. It's the evenings are like still chilly, which is really really nice.
That's nice.
Yes,
Could
it's
probably
lovely.
cook an egg on the pavement here. I'm not gonna try.
I maybe you should. It could be a fun experiment.
That would be a fun experiment, but with the price of eggs.
So true. So true. You need like a quail egg or something.
Indeed.
All right, I will take us through this week's headlines. I'm going to skip the first two stories for now because that's what we're going to dive into sort of as the meat of the podcast. But we had a guest editorial by 5 directors of the Optimal Cancer Care Alliance about how optimizing dosing of oncology drugs has the potential to, quote unquote, make America healthier. The 5 directors were Mark Ratain from the University of Chicago Medicine, David A. Hyman, Georgetown University, Jill Feldman, lung cancer patient advocate and lung cancer patient as well, and the co-founder of EGFR Resistors, Beth R. Jacobson, general counsel at the Octave Health Group, Inc., and Alan S. Lichter, senior partner of TGR Healthcare and former CEO of ASCO. We also had a guest editorial by Donald Skip Trump and Eric Rosenthal that took a look at the current administration's funding cuts and firings from a historical perspective, asking the question, what would President Nixon and Senator Kennedy think of, quote, the Trump administration's willy-nilly approach to defunding medical research and hobbling the nation's cancer research program. So very strong guest editorial from them. Very good to read and listen to. Claire took on all of our cancer policy last week. She is an absolute rock star. She wrote about the quote unquote forward funding NIH budget plan, as well as a federal judge ruling that Trump's canceling of NIH grants is illegal. And NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya has launched a new podcast, which I think should be coming out weekly. So, very interesting, as well as many other things in that cancer policy. Claire truly was
We have competition, Jack.
I know. And it's called the director's desk, I believe. So,
So
who knows?
They better be good at this, what to do, because they may just not need journalists. They may just be able to do the coverage of themselves by themselves.
Yeah. Speak directly to the people.
It's going to be great.
Yes. So finally we have our stories 1 and 2, which were about the same topic, basically. And it is a push by career entrepreneur Lou Weisbach, who is trying to start the American Center for Cures. And basically that's a push to get the U.S. government, the U.S. Department of the Treasury, to sell off $750 billion in bonds over 6 years to fund this American Center for Cures as basically a new paradigm in cancer research and other disease research funding that's focused exclusively on cures and prevention, not treatments. And the idea is that you treat treating diseases, or you treat curing diseases, like a business. So there is usually a business type expert who has proven their ability to cross the finish line, and they are sort of recruited or tasked with recruiting scientists in their disease, and their job is to cure this disease. And if they don't cure the disease, there's quote unquote accountability. So they might get a warning, they might get removed from the position. It's a sort of turning the whole process of cancer research and biomedical research on its head, where it's a lot more accountability, a lot more like a business, and a lot less like like typical
like
NIH
grant,
research.
and so forth. Well, that one we should probably just focus on that for a moment. So that's a very interesting idea that Lou Weisbach, who's a former CEO, and Richard Boxer, who is a urologist and a member of NCAB, came up with 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But the idea is I guess the depth of it is the deepest way of looking at it is if the system that we have in oncology, and this thing is beyond oncology, but if the system that we have now working in oncology were to be built today, it would look very, very different from what it is right now, which is true because it's a system that evolved. It's not an argument, but what these guys are suggesting, and they suggested that again 25 years ago, was to design something that is more driven to produce outcomes, as opposed to study the thing. Which is also kind of an interesting way of looking at it. Years ago, Don Coffey at Hopkins used to say, and I'm going to clean this up a little bit because our platforms do not allow us to use the language he used. But what Don used to say, are you studying the thing? Or are you trying to cure? Are you trying to study this thing? Or are you trying to cure this thing?
Yeah.
Meaning cancer, but he didn't use the word cancer.
Yes.
He used the word that rhymes with trucker.
A little more colorful.
Yeah, he was a colorful guy. But that is really the issue here. Are you trying to study the thing? Or are you trying to cure the thing? And the objective really is to come up with a system that is more driven towards producing something similar to an iPhone. You couldn't produce an iPhone with the health equivalent of an iPhone with a healthcare system that we have now. There's a question that's at the heart of it all, which is that iPhone, just like the moonshot for that matter, is about engineering. All the science has been done. I'm not sure there's anyone in the right mind who would suggest that all the science has been done in oncology or really in biomedical science, biomedical research. Yeah. So you kind of still need NIH, and you still need biomedical research. So,
well, that's what he said. He said that he envisions this at least as being complementary to NIH.
Yeah. And if a very large amount of money goes into all of this in order to restructure the system, and if it's kept apolitical, which is important, if it actually produces results, then my God, then that would be fantastic. Even people who haven't, several people I spoke with who are kind of looking at the idea de novo, really, are saying, well, that certainly deserves to be heard. And that's what we tried to do. We tried to give Lou an opportunity to tell the story to everyone who reads the cancer letter, which is not a small number of people, and mostly in academic oncology, pharma, and the government. But he has certainly presented his case. I tried to do it a little bit differently. Maybe we should talk about that.
Your story with Otis?
Yeah, well, you wrote the main story, which brought it all sort of in one place, put it all together. And what I wanted to do was to take it kind of beyond that. And as a journalist, nobody really, I'm limited in what I can, I limit myself in when it comes to opining. Just as to spare the sensibilities and the good and of our readers. So what I did was I actually brought in, deputized a real expert in the field who actually can opine, and that's Otis Brawley. Mm-hmm. So we deputized him to be a journalist. So Otis and I did the interview with Lou, conducted that, and that actually came out quite nicely.
Yeah.
So I was just provoking, and Otis was opining, and Lou was answering questions.
Yes.
And actually, Otis was asking questions as well. It's just nice to have the kind of a deeper perspective than one I would generally provide.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Otis pushed back a little bit because obviously there are some things about this that are, just like important to note, like you said, the basic science is definitely, or even beyond basic, like including translational science is not done on oncology. You can't just stop that and just focus on cures. Again, it's different, right? You want to focus on cures, but you need to have sort of that science. The other example that Lou Weisbach brought up was the COVID vaccine. And it's the same idea, right? It's like, wow, we could get this done in 7 months and it normally takes at least 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea there also, and I think Otis actually brought this up in the Q&A, was that same thing. The science had already been done. We had been studying mRNA vaccines for at least 10 years before that. We had been studying COVID, other strains of COVID. So it was like we had all of this ready to go, and then sort of it was this engineering feat more. And again, maybe engineering isn't quite the right word, but it was more this like
engineering. No, that's exactly.
Well, it's like implementation, because I think it's still, yeah, but it's it's that side of it. And I think that what Lou is saying is that there are situations like that in oncology and in other diseases that why wouldn't we try to get those off the shelf or off the, into the actual, the market for patients. But obviously that can't be where oncology research and other biomedical research ends.
Yeah. No, my concern was that the NIH would be killed with friendly fire here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's go back a little bit to 1971 and the National Cancer Act. The National Cancer Act showed broadly that it is possible to buy ideas with money. Mm-hmm. So more money, more ideas is probably not inaccurate. And lots of people were saying that, money does not buy ideas in 1971 as they campaigned against this silly legislation in Washington. But really, most of the science that we have now came from that. And so it was a big promise and possibly a waste of money in some cases.
Really?
People were saying, well, yeah, it seemed that way at that time. Short term, it's a waste of money. But money is spent by the government to pursue. It was also the first time that a country declared war on the disease and created structures that are kind of the envy of the rest of biomedical research. Now, Lou is looking beyond cancer. He's looking at things like diabetes and so forth. But really, human genius filled in that gap.
Yeah.
Between the science, promise of science and the actual science. And engineering kind of follows. It's kind of interesting. It was Al Gilman who said that to me a number of times, which is things become clear as engineering problems after you've solved the problem. Before you've solved the problem, it's a scientific evolutionary problem. Cancer is an evolutionary problem.
Yeah, totally.
So it will be very interesting to see, but also, I hate to be kind of weaving around here, and I know I'm weaving. If you buy ideas, if you're in the business of buying ideas, $750 billion will buy a lot of really good ideas,
Yeah.
which is an unprecedented amount. And it's not unprecedented to fund cancer research through bonds. What is CPRIT if not a bond funded institute in Texas? So it can be done.
Yeah. And I think kind of the, like you said, this is not a new American Center for Cures is not new. It's over 2 decades old, but it's really gaining traction right now as NIH is facing this existential threat from Washington, and people are looking for potentially other types of funding mechanisms.
Well, the idea existed in the ether and on paper, but it doesn't exist until money.
Well, I mean, as much as it exists now, it existed then.
Well, Lou's view is that he wants to take it over to the White House at this point. And if it becomes, the Trump Center for Cures, well, something good will come of it.
Yeah. And I think it was Steve Rosen who said, if anybody can get this done, it's Lou. So that's a very, when Steve Rosen says that, you listen.
Well, yeah. And interestingly, one of the big winners in all of this, and this is getting back to the engineering questions, is the Cancer Centers Informatics Society. Mm-hmm. So, the AI center of this whole cures thing would get many billions of dollars.
Yeah, 108.
So that would buy a lot of science or engineering or what have you. It's going to buy something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, it's interesting because I spent a lot of time writing about CA Big years ago, which was an NCI structure that was going to AI is not the right word, but data science structure that the NCI launched years and years ago under Andy Van Eschenbach. And that was how he was going to cure cancer and suffering and death due to cancer by 2015, which didn't happen. But recently, I was actually speaking at a meeting of CI4CC, which is the Cancer Centers Informatics Society. And somebody asked me, was that all a waste of time? And I kind of looked around and saw all these people who are really involved in a field that didn't exist before CA Big. Yeah. And I said, I kind of changed my mind right there and then, and I kind of had to say no.
Yeah.
In any other setting, I would have probably said yes, but because I wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
But there I saw it. Here's a bunch of people at major cancer centers who are doing data science. And that will change a lot. So, and that is because the government wasted, you might use the word wasted. It was about $350 million boondoggle. Or was it? Maybe not. Yeah. There are a lot of mini boondoggles that followed the National Cancer Act of 1971, which actually turned out not to be boondoggles at all.
Yeah.
I mean, people were talking about viral oncology program being rife with favoritism, poor contracting, and whatever other nonsense. But look at, we wouldn't have immunotherapy if not for that cancer, viral oncology program. Wow. So, it does take shaking things up, and it does take money. And if they shake things up and come up with some money, something very good could come of it at what looks like a really bad time, the worst time that's ever been.
I think we covered a lot. There's a lot more in the story. Lou was telling me about how they've sort of extended an olive branch to pharma. We talked to CI4CC, CI4CC's Serena Nadaf. So there's a lot more in the two stories to explore for sure. So definitely don't end your consumption of this topic here. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on the podcast, Paul?
No, I think we really covered the whole thing. It was an exciting week.
Yes.
A great time to be a journalist.
As always. All right. Thanks, Paul. See you next week.